Beyond politics and above organized religion, a moral authority exists known globally as the ageless wisdom. It is the study of consciousness, the mystery of awareness, which cannot be measured yet will not be denied. This podcast from Michael Benner's Ageless Wisdom Salon features lessons in metaphysics, mysticism, and esoteric philosophy. Those who attend live on Zoom may also participate in group meditation and roundtable discussions. Register for our newsletter at michaelbenner.com. Welcome to the Ageless Wisdom Mystery School with
Michael Benner.
All right, then let's do our meditation. Get settled in your chair, a couple of shoulder shrugs and head rolls, and just shake off the physical stress and tension. Get flat in your seat, scooched back. There's nothing wrong with using the back of the chair to support you. If you want to sit perfectly straight and without back support, that's ideal. But we're Westerners, and it does take some practice to develop the back muscles necessary to do that. So if you feel like sitting back and using the back of the chair to support you, there's nothing wrong with that. Your feet should always be flat on the floor, however, unless you're laying and meditating in a prone position. Make sure your ankles are not crossed, feet flat on the floor. Ideally, palms should be facing upward in your lap, either independently or, again, more traditionally, the right hand laying on top of the left hand. Close your eyes and take a few slow, deep breaths, pulling in strength and power as you inhale, and creating as you exhale a sense of letting go, a relaxation. And then after a brief pause, as if unhurried, repeat the deep breath cycle, creating and sensing a letting go feeling as you exhale. And do that 3 or 4 times. A sigh of relief is a sigh of release. Feel the letting go. And as you allow yourself to breathe normally and naturally, continue to consider how letting go feels. Not only relaxing the muscles in your body, but a mental letting go and an emotional letting go, as if putting down your burden, putting down your emotional baggage, as if for the next 15 minutes or so, there's nothing you need worry about, nothing you need to do about anything. That's the point of meditation and why it's so special. You deliberately unbusy yourself and consider that there's nowhere else you'd rather be, nowhere else you need to be, nothing else you'd rather be doing. Then turning away from the physical world, the material world, and turning within, leaving your personality, your ego self, the self-centered self in the material world, and aspiring to find the self that is connected to all that is. For in truth, there is no separation. Viewed properly, all things are part of one life. Everything is interdependent. All things interreliant. Everything is connected. That which appears to be bits and pieces is an integral part of a whole. And so too the higher self. Sharing the 5 qualities of mindfulness meditation as described by Pema Chodron. We begin with steadfastness, which is also called equanimity. And given what I've just said about interreliance and interdependence and all seemingly separate things being part of a whole, this is true for every bullet-pointed list or every numbered list. So while we're about to make 5 points describing what you might presume to be 5 separate aspects or qualities of meditation, you'll recognize, I'm sure, the overlap and the intersection. Beginning with steadfastness or equanimity, notice the prefix of equanimity, suggesting equal. More than equal, equanimity is a balance, a centeredness, a middle. When I was a little boy, there was an amusement park on the beach of Lake Michigan where I grew up that had a fun house, among other things. And in that fun house was a big spinning wheel, probably 15 feet across. And it sloped downward ever so slightly. But the fun of the wheel was scrambling up on it. And while there was nothing to hold on to, the game was trying to stay on the spinning wheel as long as you could. And the wheel would begin to spin ever so slowly and then pick up speed, faster and faster and faster. And of course, in time, everybody, due to the centrifugal force of the spinning wheel, would slide off the wheel. And the last one would be the king of the mountain, so to speak. Well, you didn't have to do that game very long before you realized that the best spot was dead center. And if you could be the first one on the wheel and the first one to sit right in the center, you didn't even have to hold on. Because the centrifugal force was neutralized in the center. It canceled each other out, the tendency to throw you off in this direction or the opposite direction, or at a 90-degree angle or a 180-degree angle to that. All of that canceled out so that the closer you get to dead center, the more still the spinning circle was, and the lower were the forces. That sometimes comes to mind when I think about equanimity, which is to be even-tempered. Consider that for a moment. Even-tempered. And also level-headed. You see? It's not detachment, because that would be an oblivious state. It's non-attachment, where you can observe the emotional and mental pull of our daily life and affairs without identifying with it. Instead of I am angry, you might consider there is anger here. So observing that you're feeling anger is to free yourself from being angry, unless you choose to allow it. In fact, it allows you to see it approaching at a distance. Whoa, I can feel myself starting to get upset. I can see my anger way on the horizon, approaching, maybe faster and faster. I can see this anger coming at me with the goal of getting inside me, getting all over me. And then I become as angry as the angry person who's stimulating my anger. And everybody knows this feeling. But we also don't want to attach to a need or a desire for success or some positive feeling. To enjoy it, again, by observing it, acknowledging its presence, but being the watcher or the silent witness rather than one who has been consumed by the pleasure or the need for happiness. This is equanimity, to stand in the middle without clinging or holding on, without aversion or pushing away. Pema Chodron calls this steadfastness as well, and uses an example that occurred to me years ago. I was happy to find that she had the same insight. I felt somewhat validated by it. And that's the challenge of teaching a puppy to sit and stay. Well, the puppy does not want to sit and stay, nor does your mind. Your mind wants to be active. It wants to run the show. It wants to be in charge. It wants to tell you what to think, how to feel, and consequently what to do. And commonly the mind is filled with all manner of thoughts and feelings. And because we tend to think we are our thoughts, we identify as the thinker. And even the most destructive thoughts, or the most perverse, we presume is us, thinking this negative, destructive, or even perverse thought. And it's not. It's just random nonsense bubbling up from the unconscious. Equanimity, again, is that one step back, or that practiced ability to rise above thoughts, feelings, perceptions, acknowledge them, but not become them. So with love and affection, we train the puppy to sit and stay. You could train the puppy through fear, but you end up with a frightened puppy. Its spirit is broken. It's lost its trust and its ability to love unconditionally. Same thing with horses. You could break a horse, or you could be the horse whisperer, training the animal with love and affection. And in time, the puppy learns as you back off slowly and perhaps present the palm of one hand to it, and you say, stay. And you take another step back, stay. Take another step back. In time, the puppy will learn and experience all the joy and the benefits of pleasing you. That's what they want to do. That's the loyalty of a dog. It just so desperately wants to please you. That's why they love being trained. A dog would much rather be trained than not. The freedom is not in allowing it to run wild. The freedom is in teaching it the benefits of pleasing you, as long as your intentions are for the greater good of you and the puppy and everybody else. Steadfastness, unwavering, rock solid, in the center, in the middle of all things. As the non-attached observer. The second quality of mindfulness meditation is clear seeing or clarity. Indeed, the Sanskrit word for mindfulness meditation is Vipassana. V like Victor, Vipassana. And Vipassana translates as seeing clearly and deeply. When we practice mindfulness meditation, it's as if the fog clears away. As if you found the dimmer on the light switch and realized that you could turn the dimmer up and make it brighter in the room and make it easier to see what had been here all along but just couldn't be seen. You might know this as the aha experience, or an epiphany or revelation, or burst of insight. The nature of conscience as an aspect of consciousness, the conscience that not only knows right from wrong and good from bad, but the answer to our problems and the extent to which each of us is responsible for making it a problem. You begin to recognize that problems do not exist in the world. For millions of others are living in the same world, and they don't have your problems. And you may not have their problems. If problems existed in the world, why wouldn't we all have the same problem at the same time to the same degree? Instead, life is what you make it, and every problem is invented in the mind. It's a resistance to what actually is. And that can be understandable. The problem may be painful and may be worrisome, distressing. It may be pushing you to the point of panic. But the best way to deal with it is always to become non-attached, to practice your meditation. And just as we discussed in the first point here on equanimity and steadfastness, you acknowledge the situation. This problem is here. My sense of desperation is here. But I am not desperate. In fact, I'm curious to see how this plays out. For I deeply believe the universe continually conspires to support me. How could it not? For I am that one life. Watch it work itself out. Watch it resolve. Taking common sense action steps along the way, but nevertheless, trusting the universe, trusting life, loving life, because it is so trustworthy. This level of insight and understanding, this clear seeing, this seeing deeply, comes automatically in time with greater and greater frequency as we practice mindfulness meditation. The third quality of mindfulness meditation is courage, particularly in sitting with painful emotional feelings. The tendency, of course, is to push the feeling away, to gird our loins, to hold it at bay, to fight it off. But that just brings more tension, don't you see? And more stress, and more confusion, making it less likely you'll ever understand the nature of the discomfort or the distress. It takes courage to stand open and receptive to a painful feeling, whether it's literally some sort of pain, depression. Deep depression hurts. It hurts a lot, as much as physical pain, or anger or fear, or hatred or vengeance, or any strong negative emotion. When you stand open and receptive to that which in the past you've always tried to hold at bay, allows the feeling to come forward and approach you until it rolls over at your feet and exposes itself to you. I always liked the Alan Watts quotation, when you meet a ghost on the trail, give him a hug. These phantasms, these heartaches are here just like physical pain as an ally or a friend to teach us something. You don't want to feel, nor do I, physical pain. But the fact that we may have physical pain is an attempt by the brain and mind to reveal something to you. Hey, pay attention to this. Do something about it. Maybe stop doing that. When I first learned guitar, I would play it till my fingertips bled. And then I couldn't play again for a week. If I had listened to the pain, I would have stopped sooner and been able to play every day or every other day until the calluses built up. Listen to your pain. Well, the same is true for emotional pain. Let it in, and this takes courage. That's the third quality. You have to be brave. But again, as I said a moment ago, trusting life. Trusting that it's a grand conspiracy to support your growth. That everything that happens to you, good, bad, and otherwise, is an opportunity to learn. That your enemies are your teachers, your gurus, and our pain and our suffering are our gurus. Courage. The fourth quality of mindfulness meditation is mindfulness. And this means to remain in the present moment, to remain present in the now, in the here and the now. For everywhere you go, here you are. And to recognize our compulsions, our obsessions to live in the past, as if we could rewrite history with a lot of regret and resentment and if only, and maybe I can learn something and make sure it doesn't happen again if I live in my memory of what once was. If I ignore the reality of the present moment and live in the imagery of my mind, for that's what memory is. Memory is imagination, is it not? Memory is imagination. And the other false refuge is to live in the future. Doesn't mean there's not a benefit in planning your future, setting goals and objectives. I'm talking about living there, dwelling there, delaying your happiness until you get there. And because there is no there, your happiness is deferred forever. Well, I'll be happy when, I'll be happy if, I'll be happy once I get. How about being happy now? On the way, in the moment, without condition, unconditional happiness for no particular reason whatsoever. Happy for the beauty and the joy of life, and happy when things are painful or difficult, we know this too shall pass. For nothing lasts in the material world. Not for long. All things fade away. Everything rises and falls. And to live in the present moment without judgment. So much of our discomfort and our unhappiness comes from judging this as right or wrong, good or bad. Just look at school. How rare was the teacher who recognized that every mistake that the student makes is an opportunity to learn. And how common, unfortunately, the situation where the low mark is something to be ashamed of and embarrassed about, and you're the poor student and you're in the third reading group instead of the first reading group. And you're not in the clique with the cool kids. And you just sort of sit alone at the lunch table. Remember, Eleanor Roosevelt said famously, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." And that's not limited to a sense of inferiority. Nobody can make you angry without your consent. Indeed, no one can make you feel loved, loving, and lovable without your consent. Consider that. So mindfulness is recognizing that the only reality is this infinite, eternal moment, this instant that unfolds so that every moment is new again and as fresh as a spring day. And we must be present in that reality to see it and appreciate it, and to experience its wonder. Nothing is static or still in the material universe. And the fifth quality of mindful meditation, according to Pema Chodron, and she talks about getting this from her guru, no big deal. It's like the book someone once wrote, "Don't sweat the small stuff. Number 2, it's all small stuff." No big deal. On occasions, I've had clients come to me in private sessions with an enormous problem. And sometimes I would just jump directly to, "How long do you think you'll even remember this?" And often they'd look at me with a curious look on their face, maybe cock their head a little to one side. I said, "Think of big problems you've had in the past. Enormous arguments, deal breakers, things that you felt so strongly about. Huge problems. How many of them do you remember now?" Take a moment to do that. Do that right now. Think of the last time you had a big blowout with somebody and you were angry to the max, or fearful or depressed, or tempted to hate, and maybe even be vengeful somewhat, wanting payback. How much of that do you remember? Do you remember what it was even about? And what made it such a big deal as you look back on it in retrospect? Was it really such a big deal? Was it really all that important? Look at what you gave up. Look what you lost. What you were willing to give up. To hold on to that anger, that hate, that attitude of vengeance or retribution. Those obsessive thoughts that seem to have such a tight hold on you. Perhaps those thoughts and feelings were not holding on to us. Perhaps we have been holding on to them. And if so, we could let them go and just say, no big deal. And take a big breath. And as you exhale, let it go. And come back to the present moment. The 5 qualities of mindfulness meditation. Number 1, equanimity. And again, remember, each of these overlaps. I'm sure you sense the intersection, the interreliance, the interdependence. Just like the ecosystem or the environment. Everything touching everything else. First, steadfastness, equanimity. Second, clear seeing. Third, the courage to sit with your pain. 4, the nature of mindfulness, the present moment without judgment. And 5, it's no big deal. I have the ability to decide, to put it down, let it go. Let it wash away downriver. Into the past, where it lives no more. Take just a couple of minutes, I mean literally like 2 minutes, until you hear my voice again, to simply contemplate, to ponder these 5 points. Take just another few moments to form a question or comment about this material that you can share with others in the next segment, the discussion. Form the intention to return to the wide-awake state. Become aware of how it feels to be supported by the chair. Feel the floor beneath your feet. Sense a gentle drifting upward toward the waking state. As if drifting, as if floating, gently, slowly upward toward the wide-awake state. Inhaling now, big, full, deep breaths, fill your lungs. Hold for a moment as you peak. And exhaling, open your eyes now, wide awake, back in the room, eyes open, wide awake, feeling fine, refreshed, rested, and better than before.
Wide